What's up, everybody? I'm Z, and this channel shows you the world through my lens. Welcome to the first episode of what I hope will be a continued series. Obviously, it all depends on if you guys enjoy it or not, but I'm sure we'll find that out sooner or later. Uh, this is on a new channel because I am trying to separate my content. So if you guys are seeing me for the first time, this is not my first time on camera. I have a reaction channel where I react to music, and then I also have some TV show reactions as well that I do. But again, I'm trying to segregate and separate my different types of content so that I'm not kind of like bogging down one channel with all these different kind of things that I'm trying to do. Um, so if you guys are new to me and you're interested in things like TV show reactions or music reactions, or I have some stuff for sports reactions and different types of reactions, you guys can check those things out. But this is a thing that I've been wanting to do for a while. I joined Reddit. Actually, I joined Reddit because I would Google questions, if I was having trouble with something. And a lot of times I would find these threads on Reddit of people discussing. So, like if I was having a tech issue or, an issue with whatever, you name it. And then I would go and see, oftentimes not find helpful stuff, but sometimes find helpful stuff. And then, so when I joined Reddit, then I found that there's like a wide variety of stuff. And one of the things that I find quite entertaining is this. What would it be called? Page, thread. I don't know what the terms on Reddit are, but it's Am I the A-hole? And I find this quite entertaining. So I thought that maybe it could be a thing for me to kind of go through these with you guys rather than by myself. I don't know if this is going to go well, but we're going to check it out. And yeah, so this is episode one. I think maybe we'll do like, I don't know, let's try 2 or 3 posts and see how far we get, how long it takes. And then we can decide if that's enough for one video. All right, so we have the first one that we're going to be checking out today. This one is titled, Am I the A-hole for getting in a fight with my girlfriend on her birthday because she was being picky with the food I cooked her? So right now, without reading anything, getting in a fight with your girlfriend on her birthday is probably not great, but she was being picky with the food that you cooked her. This is where I'm not sure. We're going to have to find out some details. So here we go. My girlfriend, so the male is 29 and the female is 27. My girlfriend of 3 years had her birthday yesterday, and I wanted to surprise her by waking her up to bed in breakfast. So I'm going to guess that's breakfast in bed on her birthday. For some background, she has always been somewhat of a picky eater in the sense that she will try things, but if it doesn't blow her mind or make her happy slash excited to eat it, then she won't finish it. Uh, the writing is a little bit troublesome here. Caused some problems in the beginning of our relationship when I was still trying to hone my cooking skills for her, since neither of us knew how to cook. Nowadays, I obviously have adjusted to her palate, gotten much better, and haven't had issues since the beginning. Okay, so right off the bat, okay, before we get into the next paragraph, you already know that your girlfriend is a picky eater. This has already caused problems in the past. So, right off the bat, again, before I get into further details, maybe my opinion will change. Maybe you should have chosen a different approach, right? Like if you know that this is something that she's picky with, and it's something that you guys have accepted and have decided to still be together despite this pickiness, um, you know, then maybe you shouldn't have cooked for her. But let's see. Let's see. Flash forward to yesterday for her birthday. I decided to make breakfast burritos with sides of egg, hash browns, sausage, and bacon. Sounds great. I'd made it for her in the past, and she says it's one of her favorite things I make for her. So I had no stress whatsoever. Okay, sounds good. That was all until I started making the eggs and realized we only had 2% milk in the house. She likes whole milk because it makes the eggs creamier. Um, there's a difference between 2%. I don't know nothing about these things, these details. I was already halfway through cooking and didn't want to involve her and ruin the surprise. So I just used 2% milk instead, thinking it wouldn't be a big difference for her. I was incredibly wrong. Oh gosh. Okay. Somebody comment down below. Is there a huge difference between whole milk and 2% milk? Like, I don't know. Enough so that okay. I'm starting to teeter here. We'll see what happens next. I lit some scented candles she loves, put on our favorite show, and gave her her plate of food. She was so excited for a moment, but then she paused and asked me, "Did you have to run out and get whole milk? Because I noticed we ran out the other day, and you need whole milk for eggs." So I told her no, and that I just used 2% because I couldn't stop halfway through to run out for 30 minutes to get milk. She just sighed and started tearing up because she couldn't eat anything with the eggs in it then. Okay, this seems like a strong reaction, but let's keep going. She said that she tried 2% milk eggs once when she was little and didn't like it. All right. Before we even get to the next sentence, this is a bit much. If you recently, you're 27 years old, you tried eggs with 2% milk when you were a kid, like a little kid, and decided since then that you're not going to have them again because you didn't like it back then when you were a little kid, you're 27. I don't know about this. All right, let's keep going. So she felt disappointed now and only ate the hash browns and meat. I begged her to at least try a bite of the burrito and see if she likes it because I really didn't want to start her birthday off on a bad note. But she refused and wouldn't even try the burrito since it had egg. Oh my goodness. It annoyed me that she wouldn't even try it, but I stayed calm and didn't want to make things worse. Look, I'm far from someone who wants to make the judgment on whether you're an a-hole or not before the whole story is finished. But at this point, I don't think you're the a-hole. Like, this is not this is not this is not normal. Okay? You're you oh okay, let's just keep going. We moved on from it and I focused on keeping her happy for the rest of her birthday. And things went well until we were leaving her parents' house when she said something along the lines of, "I'm glad we got to see you guys, and thank you, Dad, for cooking dinner, because I need at least one guy in my life that knows how to cook good food." And trust me, the tone was not playful, and she was staring straight at me with a serious face when she said it. It caught me so off guard and immediately frustrated me, so we got in a fight during the drive home and barely spoke the rest of the night. I feel terrible since it was her birthday, but I genuinely don't feel like I did anything that wrong. I made a mistake with the eggs, but she was the one who brought it up to make me look bad and make it a big deal. Am I the a-hole? All right. I for sure can pass the judgment at this point. You are not the a-hole, okay? You did a great thing trying to, you know, make a breakfast for your girlfriend or whatever. Um, the you know, could you have planned better if you were planning on the food and you know that this whole milk is super super important or whatever? Could you have made sure the day before or whatever that you had all the ingredients before you were going to cook the food? Sure, that is a way that perhaps this whole thing could have been avoided, but her response to this is problematic. And you feeling like you're the bad guy in the situation, plus the comment made to her parent, at her parents' house, this is not a healthy relationship. in my opinion. Okay. I don't know what other people thought about it. I'm going to just scroll down and see if we can just see a couple of comments and just see. Okay. Yeah. So the first one is not the a hole. Okay. Good. Let's just go down. I'm sure a lot of these comments, I just kind of like to see the start of the conversations. Yeah. Not the a hole. Um, Not the a hole, not the a hole, not the a hole. Okay. So I don't even need to read the details. There's just like overwhelmingly people saying not the a hole, not the a hole. Um, because yeah, this is, I think the main part that got me, this has nothing to do with like an allergy or anything like that. This was like when I was 5, someone made me eggs with 2% milk and I didn't like the eggs. And now I'm 27, and for the last 22 years, if I find out that the eggs have 2% milk in them, I will not eat them or try them. Right? Like, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. All right, guys, here we go. Let's do another one. I walked out within 5 to 10 minutes of a date. Ooh, I'm excited to check this one out. Okay. Hey guys, as the title says, I cut a date short for the first time, literally within 5 to 10 minutes of meeting him. We met on a dating app and planned to meet tonight. I suggested a place close to me because going further into the city wasn't possible tonight, and he agreed. He drove quite a distance, which I genuinely appreciated. That's nice. Okay, here we go. But the moment we met, he gave off very annoyed and angry vibes. The place we went to didn't seem to be his vibe. Maybe because he doesn't drink? Even though I mentioned they have mocktails. Okay. All right, let's just keep going. Then he suggested we go downstairs to the coffee shop, which was about to close soon. I tried making conversation to help things feel more comfortable, but whether he was nervous or not, he just seemed irritated. My gut was telling me something was off. I asked him a simple question about whether he moved to the country recently, and he responded in a way that felt defensive and almost angry. Like, why would you think I moved here recently? I told him I was just trying to get to know him. We went down to the cafe, but since it was closing soon, he didn't want to get anything. I suggested we could go to another place, but as soon as we stepped outside, my discomfort got stronger. He hadn't smiled once. He seemed tense and pissed off for reasons I couldn't understand, and I just didn't feel safe or comfortable continuing. Okay, before we continue with the story, there's a lot of things here that are not great. Now, it's not confirmed at the top, when she's saying that maybe this place wasn't his vibe because he doesn't drink, but like, there's been plenty of times I've gone out with my friends to places and not drank anything. Like, you don't need to. There's other things going on. You can hang out and have fun. But whatever, that's not guaranteed. That's her kind of making a guess. But if we're coming down here and it's like he's seeming angry, he hasn't smiled once. If you don't want to be there, don't be there. Like, no one's forcing you to go on a date. But anyways, let's see. Maybe there's more to this. I'm gonna scroll down. Okay, here we go. Right before we walked further, I told him I wasn't feeling it. Before I could even finish, he just walked off. And this isn't a huge thing, but it does matter to me. He barely even opened the door while we were walking out. I was the one doing it. It may seem small, but I'm looking for a chivalrous man, and it honestly annoyed me. So, am I the a hole? I did feel bad because he drove a long way, but I honestly couldn't continue the date. I had to trust my gut in the moment. So, look, just based off of this, you know, I'm going to say that it's very important to follow your gut. If you're getting bad vibes from a person, if they're coming off as angry or short, and this is the first time you're meeting them, typically the first time you meet someone, people try to be on their best behavior. They're trying to give a good impression. I almost want to say like it's more by the fourth, fifth, or sixth time that you're really going to get to know what the person's like because they're trying so hard to appear a certain way. But if the first impression is that they are angry and short and abrupt and not having a good time and not happy to see you, that's not really a good start. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, For me personally, um, I think it's important to be, you know, forward with what you're thinking. So if someone's coming off as like they're pissed off or they're angry, I would kind of just be like, "Hey, is everything okay? You seem like you're in a bad mood. Is everything okay? Do we need to reschedule?" I could say something like that, and then maybe find out from that person what's bothering them instead of guessing, right? And this is just something that over time, it's like instead of always trying to like read someone's mind or guess or reach assumptions, I've just gotten to the point where I'm just like, hey, is everything okay? You seem off, right? And then we can just get straight to it. They can tell you what's going on and whatever. So for me personally, I'm going to say here, it probably could have been handled differently before that final step of leaving, just to kind of see what's up. But if you're getting bad vibes from somebody, then it doesn't really matter. You don't owe anybody anything. You're getting bad vibes, cut it off. I'm gonna say not the a-hole. um, I see that there's some sort of edit, so maybe there's an update. We're gonna scroll down. We see not the a-hole, not the a-hole, not the a-hole, not the a-hole, not the a-hole. Okay, it seems like we're on the same page. I'm just gonna check the edit. I did ask him beforehand if he was okay with the place. He said it was good. Also, when he initially asked me out, he literally said we could meet for a drink. Unless I'm dumb and was supposed to assume that meant coffee or something. And for anyone thinking maybe I didn't look like my profile, I've been on plenty of dates before and no one has ever said I catfished or didn't look like my photos. I don't even edit them. That's funny how that didn't even cross my mind. He just showed up already in a weird mood. There was no nice to meet you or anything. He seemed off from the moment he arrived. Yeah, like you're meeting someone for the first time, you're not smiling, you're not saying it's so nice to finally meet you. Like these are just normal pleasantries. And if you're not doing that, that's kind of weird. Also, the question about whether he moved here recently was not the first question. I asked that after a couple of conversations, and he had a thick accent. My intention was just to see where he came from or if he moved here recently. I'm not a native of that country either, and I don't have a thick accent. If people ask me if I moved here recently, I've never taken offense to it or don't see it as being offensive as they're trying to get to know me. So, as per my perspective, when I asked that, it was with a different intention. I never thought this question was offensive, as I've been asked that before. It's hard to read these sometimes, so it makes sense. I asked the question too, as it is a commonly asked question. He said common asked question. I'm going to say commonly asked question. If they take offense to it, it's their perspective, and clearly he took offense to it, but he was already in a mood, as mentioned earlier. I usually get a sense of someone's vibe within a few minutes, at least on surface level, like whether they're friendly, relaxed, or aggressive based on their mannerisms and by the way they talk. And his energy was just not it. Yeah, even with the update, like I'm gonna say, not the a-hole. You know, I think the big things that stand out to me here is not having the pleasantries, like nice to meet you, so nice to finally meet you in person, whatever. Not smiling, not seeming like they're interested in wanting to be there. These are all things that, you know, not the a-hole. Move on, walk out. All right, guys, we're at the next one. We have a title here that says, am I the a-hole for telling my roommate it's not my problem if I trigger their ED, which I'm guessing means eating disorder. So let's jump into this one. This one is interesting already. I'm a college student living off campus with two other people, a friend of mine and his girlfriend, who I don't know very well. This is my first year living with her, but I've lived with him the past 2 years without any issue. Anyhow, I'm a gym goer and take my fitness and diet pretty seriously. So I track my macros pretty strictly, which involves sometimes weighing food, stick to the same foods usually, and refuse all junk food and alcohol. She took me aside and told me that she had an eating disorder and that seeing me be so strict about my food makes her feel self conscious and triggers her desire to relapse and asked me to do something different so she's more comfortable. Okay. I asked what she meant, and she said that I shouldn't weigh food in front of her in the kitchen, should be less strict with my diet, should stop refusing junk food when she and her boyfriend go out to get some and ask me to have some. I told her she doesn't really have a right to me ask that of me, and while I hope she's okay, her eating disorder isn't really my problem. She called me an a-hole for this. Her boyfriend, my friend, is refusing to take sides. Am I the a-hole? Okay. So, sometimes you're reading these and like obviously there's always going to be thoughts crossing your mind like is this real? Is this legit? Whatever. Um Couple of things, right? Eating disorders are terrible, very difficult to deal with, and want to be sensitive to anybody that has issues with that. Um, on the flip side, you know, asking somebody to change their eating habits, like I think out of all the requests, so if we focus on this part right here, right? So I asked what she meant, and then she says, shouldn't weigh food in front of her. Shouldn't weigh food in front of her. I feel like that is the most closest to reasonable request. Everything after that is completely unreasonable. To ask somebody else to be less strict with their diet, to stop refusing junk food when we get junk food, perhaps ask to say you should drink alcohol when we're drinking alcohol. Those are completely out of line, like crossing the line, not reasonable at all. Um, I'm gonna rewind this back and say that what's happening here is not an like, you know, this is just an incompatibility. It's like if somebody is dealing with trying to quit smoking, for example, and they become roommates with someone who smokes, well, they're probably not compatible. The guy who doesn't smoke or girl who doesn't smoke can't go over and be like, hey, I've quit smoking, and so I need you to stop smoking so that I don't relapse into smoking. What's happening here is that you guys are not compatible to live together. And that's the case here for sure. You are not the a-hole, okay? But I think that there's probably a nicer way of saying it than saying like it isn't my problem. It isn't your problem. That's 100% true. But in terms of like, I guess, I don't know, politeness or whatever, you probably could have said it differently, but you're still not the a-hole at all. And if she is actually asking you to change all that stuff, then I think she's kind of the a-hole for doing that. Again, it's I feel really bad. I hope that she can deal with her eating disorder and come out on top, because it's a difficult thing to deal with. But yeah, definitely you're not the a-hole in this situation. I'm just gonna check if other people agree. We have not the a-hole here. Yeah, that's a good point. She can control her own reactions to the issues she brought up. Shouldn't weigh food in front of her in the kitchen. She can leave the kitchen when this is happening. Anyways, whatever. I don't need to go into details with all these other things. I think not the asshole. Oh, I don't want to say it fully. Hopefully, I might cut that out. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Why don't we do one more and then we'll cut off the video there, because I think we've done 3. So we'll do 4 and then we'll cut it off there. All right, we have found our 4th one. We're gonna do this one as the last one for the video. This one is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband his friend can come to Thanksgiving, but I'm not dealing with his BS? Uh-oh, okay. This already seems confrontational, but let's see what's going on. So, my husband has this friend. Let's call him Craig. What's up, Craig? Craig. The first time we invited Craig over for a holiday was Thanksgiving a few years ago. He said he wanted to wash his hands before dinner, but didn't use the bathroom. Instead, he went to the kitchen and proceeded to complain about how the sink was full of dishes and why hadn't I cleaned them yet, despite the fact I had made an entire Thanksgiving meal. My husband said he was probably joking and I shouldn't have taken it so personally. Right away, I got problems with Craig. My man, you're going to somebody's house, okay? When you want to wash your hands, you ask, where can I wash my hands? You don't just go do stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is a thing that, like, I was brought up in the mindset that when you go to somebody's house as a guest, you are a guest. That is not your house, okay? There's way too many people that go up in other people's houses and act like it's their house. Sorry, this is a bit of a point for me. I know I'm going off right now. Okay, we're okay. We're okay. And yeah, and the comment about the dishes, like, nah, dude, I'm already not liking Craig. This is two strikes already. For Easter, my husband invited him again, and Craig offered to bring a pie. I told him that I was already planning on making two desserts, carrot cake and cheesecake stuffed strawberries. What? Yo, I want the recipe for that. That sounds interesting. And since my husband and I were trying to lose weight, I really didn't want an extra dessert floating around. So he offered to bring rolls instead. I joked that if he didn't bring King Hawaiian sweet rolls, he wouldn't be allowed inside. Okay? I mean, sure. So on Easter, I told him dinner would be served at 5. 5 o'clock came and no Craig. 5:30, still no Craig, but we decide to eat. 6, no Craig, and we move on to dessert. 6:30, we finish eating and decided to relax in the living room. 7, Craig finally shows up with his girlfriend, and I see he brought King Hawaiian butter rolls. At this point, I didn't really care since I already ate dinner without a roll, but what really got me was he brought the pie. Of course he did. So, Craig goes to wash his hands and can't help but make a comment about the dishes in my sink. He then complains that my food is nowhere as good as his girlfriend's. Probably had something to do with the fact that he was probably had something to do with the fact that the food was now cold. When he was ready to leave, I told him not to forget his pie, and he mentioned that he didn't like sweets and we could keep it. Yo, Craig, this is like strikes 3, 4, 5, and 6. I really don't like this dude. Like, me and Craig have problems. Somebody invites you at 5, you don't show up till 7, and like, this is not being mentioned in here, but was he allowed a plus one? He's showing up with his girlfriend. Like, I heard Craig was invited. I don't know. I'm not trying to bring something extra to it, but I'm just saying. Uh, Me and Craig would have problems. That's all. Like, I invite you at 5 and it's like 6:30. My door's locked. You can knock, but I mean, she doesn't want the pie. I'll take the pie. You go home. That's what's going to happen at my house. Now, Thanksgiving is coming again, and my husband wants to invite him. What's wrong with your husband? Bro, I said, fine, but I'm not dealing with his BS this time. The first condescending comment he makes, he can walk straight out, and if I have to slam the pie in his face to get him to take it, then I will. My husband is telling me that I'm taking everything out of context, but I think showing up 2 hours late and being rude to the host is pretty clear. Am I the a-hole? You are most definitely not the a-hole. Craig is like 4 a-holes in one. Like, what are we talking about? Okay, look, there's a lot of situations like this that people experience in real life. Um, my wife and I talked about this early on in our relationship, and it was like when your partner is being introduced to your family, like, or your friends, it is kind of your responsibility to set the tone and shut down, because your wife is meeting somebody for the first time. And because this is like a balance, like relationships are a balance. There's some people who will disagree with this and will say, F that, nuclear bomb this, burn all the bridges, like cut it off, all that stuff. But, if you want to have peaceful, cohesive existence with your family, it's a balancing act of all these different, personalities and how we interact with each other. And so, it's one of those things where, like, I said to my wife early on, there was something that happened between me and her parents. And I was like, I can hold my own, but I want to respect your parents. And I think that there's certain things that, you can set the tone with your parents with how you want them to interact with me in our relationship so that things don't go bad. And then vice versa. Like, I have to do that with my parents, and I've had to do that with my parents, and there's been friction and stuff. And, I've had to kind of set the tone and figure out, how to balance that equation. And I think that's one of the things that's missing in this story. The husband is either the most oblivious dude in the world, or he's completely like, uh, just being ignorant and wants to, have this relationship with his friend and believe that everything is, all roses and hunky dory and all that stuff. Because if even half of what I think, it doesn't say if it's because it just says my husband, but the person doesn't refer to themselves. If even half of what she's saying is true, yeah, it doesn't ever clarify but not that it matters. Um, then, you know, Craig's not it, man. And husband's got to step up and, like, stand up for your wife. Be like, yo, I don't like the way that you're interacting with my wife. And if you're going to keep interacting like that, then I'm not going to have you over at my house. That's it, man. That's how it goes. Let's see if other people are with me. Um, yeah, talking about the 2 hours late with the girlfriend. Um, yeah, I think we're all on the same page. Yep, not the a-hole, on the same page, not the a-hole. Yep, yep. Yeah, good. I look, it's not important to see what the comments are, but I think it restores my faith in humanity when we can kind of feel like we're upholding justice together, if that makes sense. But guys, this was my first time exploring Reddit or my YouTube channel, and we checked out some Am I the A-hole videos today. If you guys enjoyed this, obviously, drop a like or a comment down below and let me know. And yeah, if I see that people are enjoying this, potential series, then we can do more videos like this. And if there's other types of Reddit threads, I only know this one, am I the a-hole? And then I'm like a part of like some local ones so I can know what's going on in my city, if I need to look up places. And then I'm in like some food ones like Bulldog Ramen and some other ones, some weird ones like that. But yeah, if you guys have other threads that you think are fun to check out and talk about, definitely comment those down below too. Cool. If you guys are still here, I greatly appreciate you spending your time with me. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.